Hey everyone, and welcome to Business Opportunities Live. This is Jeff Cohen, your host. I'm here today with two of my favorite people, Todd Gurvis and Gene Cohen. We're going to talk a lot about what's going on in the world. There are some major changes that you're going to get to see with the PPP. And I don't know if they're changes so much as they are really just the elaboration of what the PPP is and what you can do to get the money. But Gene's going to share with us how the government has really simplified the program, made it so easy. It's like snapping your finger to just get through. Gene, stop laughing. You're going to make it sound easy, okay? And so we're going to get there in just a minute. And you know, to start out, I just want to say, you know, it's really a pleasure to be with these guys every week. There are conversations we have before we start the program, and we were just having one about, you know, how prepared people are to deal with changes in business ownership. And I'd like to just touch on that for a minute, because I don't know about a lot of you, but, you know, I've been very heavily focused on helping business owners start, helping them move their businesses forward, helping them plan for their future. And at some point, they're either going to retire, they might sell their business, they might have their partner take over, whatever that case is. But, you know, it actually takes something to be prepared for that exit. Now, a lot of us start a business and we want to run the business and we're going to run it until we no longer want to. And that can be years and years from now. But some of us get surprises in the middle. And when you're setting your entity up, it's very important to be working with your business attorney on how to make sure that your business partner is covered or business partners are covered in the event that you want out, or God forbid, something happens, you no longer are capable of running the business. What do you do with that business when it comes to having your family be supported and taken care of? Because this may be where their livelihood has come from. You know, there's a lot of ways of doing it. And I just want to get into, like, and Todd's dealing with a situation with a client. He was sharing that they're now having to manage, you know, what happens next. So I want you to come into this conversation with us, not from, oh my God, this is something I don't want to hear, but rather, oh my God, this is something that I want to make sure protects my family and the people I love, protects my employees and partners in my business. I want you to come at this conversation from, this is your opportunity to make sure that you get everything out of this business that you've created and are succeeding with for all of the people in your life that participate. Because there's an implied promise you have to all of those people that you're going to do this. And it's implied because so many of us don't actually have it in writing and set up so that our employees and our business partners are taken care of through it. So I just want to make sure that everybody really gets how important that is. And so with that, I'm going to kind of open it up to Todd. And Todd, you know, why don't you share a little bit about, you know, what you notice and what's occurred for people when they reach a point where there's someone that's not used to taking care of the financial aspects of the business. And suddenly, you know, they have to. Where do they go? Who do they turn to? What do they do?
Well, there's kind of a lot of components to that, and Gene, feel free to just jump in as I'm saying something.
We'll do.
The reality is that there is going to come a time for each and every one of us where whether we are business owners or not, you know, we are mortal creatures, and particularly at a time like this, where we are in the midst of a pandemic and social unrest and running our businesses, we have to be thinking ahead. It's not even, Jeff, as much as you said of who takes care of the things for my family and my partners. Who takes care of things for my employees? Who makes sure that the business continues? Because in a lot of these cases, just like you and Gene and Chris and Stan and all of us are talking about every week, it's about keeping the business thriving and all the different aspects of it. Well, it's about keeping our families thriving.
Right.
So what you need to be doing is having a conversation now. No, you need to be having it last week with trusted advisors, a CPA, an attorney, your financial planner, your business coach, of what are the different pieces of my business, of my situation, and what do I actually have in place. Gene and I love to talk about things like key man insurance and split dollar and buy-sell agreement, throwing all these things. But the reality is there are different components of a plan that we each need that are unique to us. And a great starting point is to have a conversation. And it's the kind of conversation, like you said up front, Jeff, nobody wants to have, but have a conversation with some trusted advisors. Start with any of the ones I mentioned, your financial planner, your CPA, your attorney. They'll all be involved at some level. Your business partners, your spouse, your family, because all of them are going to get pulled. Start with a conversation with one trusted advisor. Look at your situation, because you're right, Jeff. There's going to be somebody who's not used to running the business, making decisions for you, whether you are out of the picture temporarily or permanently.
Right. From a tax perspective, dying has lots of tax ramifications, and the time to prepare for them is now and not upon the death. Over the years that I've been in practice, I've had many clients where there's been a death in the family and the business, either the wheels fall off or some adverse tax consequences happen to the business and basically bankrupt it from the inability to handle the tax situation. So typically in partnerships, the key piece to have is a buy-sell agreement. And short, it says two things: is number one, what happens if one of the partners dies, but also what if one of the partners becomes disabled and is no longer able to function? Okay, how does the profits or the business continue to run and provide funds for the family and the other partners? These are all really key pieces. The other piece applies to corporations. If you have multiple stockholders, then typically the people who control the majority of stock run the company. However, if you are the primary stockholder and you pass, and now your family is in control of the company, you're going to have to deal with the other stockholders and how they feel about it. So just about everything that has to do with taxes is absolutely impacted by the death of the taxpayer.
Well, and I'll just add one thing to that, Gene. Somebody is going to need to actually get the taxes done. Like, if you're the one that normally does it, you still are going to need to get them done going forward. So I don't think people really get how when you operate a business and that business is designed to work every day and you have employees, even if you're doing it on your own, right? And you're a solopreneur, no matter what, you still have to file taxes. If you're no longer able to file taxes, the IRS is still there's going to be a consequence somewhere for someone. And odds are you got money in the bank and you have customers that were counting on you. Like, I don't know that you've, we haven't really touched on business continuity in this conversation, but that's really what we're talking about. If you're doing it
absolutely. As far as the entities are concerned, the entities still need to meet all their tax filing requirements. The individual, if they're single, needs their tax preparer to prepare a final return. In the year you died, you still have to file that year's final return. If you have a spouse, they would still file jointly.
Right. So there's someone that's gonna be responsible. Todd, what did you want to say to complete this conversation?
Kind of to complete things. Here's the reality of it. None of us like to face our mortality. I said that to you guys before the meeting, before the show started. Nobody likes to face their mortality. We all figure we're not going to die. But you need, for the sake of your business partners, your family, your employees, your community, you need to have that go-to person. You need to have a go-to conversation to have that go-to person. I will encourage, you've got Jeff's info down there at the bottom of the screen. I know Gene's was up. There's mine. There's my email address. If you have questions about, do I have things set up correctly? Call any one of the three of us. Shoot me an email. I'm happy to have that conversation with somebody of, here's what I see. Any of us are. Of here's what we see, and this is who you should be talking to, and point you in the right direction. It's critical for all of us that we be planning even better than ever before.
Yep.
To make it through all of this.
Yeah, even more important, if there's a business involved, it really ups the stakes.
Yes.
100%. Well, perfect. So with that, thank you. Hey, Todd, how was the market this week? Where did we land?
It was an interesting week, wasn't it, guys? All right, here's what I want to say to people. First of all, the markets all ended today on an up note. Yesterday was a little interesting. However, I want to point this out. We are still at the point where we have mostly recovered everything that had happened in February and March. We have been on a straight recovery, and we were due for this. And in fact, Jeff, you can check me on this. In recent weeks, I've said there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. The downs, there will be more of them. There will also be more ups where things are shrugged off. As I say every week, keep your reserves active. Keep remembering that today's prices aren't your prices unless you cash out today.
Yeah, that's really great.
Today was a better day than yesterday to cash out.
That's really great. I love it. Cool. So with that, let's move over to Gene. Gene, you got some great news for us about how friendly the IRS is and how when they write rules, everyone can follow them because, they write them at the third grade level, and they also write them so that they can be implemented at that level too, don't they?
Unfortunately, none of your statements are correct. The SBA
you're killing me.
Issued their first draft of your forgiveness application. So everybody out there that has a PPP loan and is looking for forgiveness, the form as it currently stands is at 11 pages. And there's a fair amount of calculations that have to go into qualifying to get your loan forgiven. Before that, just a couple of points is the 24-week for spending your PPP has now been expended. Okay, it's now up to 24 weeks. So you do have 24 weeks to use your money. They have also lowered the threshold to 60%. So when the PPP first came out, you were required to spend 75% of the money on salaries. It's now been dropped to 60%, and you can use that 15% for your other allowed deductions, rent, utilities, etc. Also, the payback period, if you do not get the forgiveness, has gone from 2 years to 5 years. Where it does get technical is there's a whole section in the forgiveness application that requires you to account for all of the funds that you received. You have to give them in detail what you spent it on. And there's a few other fun calculations for calculating your full-time equivalent employees. So there is a formula that's incorporated into the forgiveness that you have to go through. You have to plug in your numbers and basically establish that you've spent all your PPP in all the correct places, in the correct amounts, and then they will grant you the forgiveness.
So I just want to say, Gene, what I'm hearing in that was the other week when I said, hey, I had the choice between the PPP and the EIDL, and you're like, yeah, it's definitely a choice, right? And my choice was to go with the EIDL. Now, I just want to let you know, I feel totally justified and right, because what I'm hearing and what you say is doing the PPP documentation takes an accounting department. And as a business of 1 or 2 or 5, you probably don't have that. You're going to be counting on your CPA or your bookkeeper to do that work, but you're probably going to be pretty involved in that conversation as well. And it might be more time consuming than you want to actually move.
Well, that may be true, but if you have a PPP with large numbers, you got 60, 70, 80, $90,000, your CPA is going to be your best bargain for getting that forgiven.
Oh, no question. No question. And listen, I am totally behind everybody that wants to get the money forgiven. And I'm also a simplicity guy. I think Todd said earlier, the rules are written by lawyers for lawyers. So knowing that, all I can say is, for each of us, we get to decide whether, we want to get it forgiven or we want to go the EIDL route. And people still have that choice, because I know people out there are still getting approvals or getting funded, and they have a choice on which one they want to take.
Yes. So talking it over with your tax advisor may be a good first move, deciding on which route works best for your business.
Yeah, and I highly recommend you talk to Gene if you don't have someone. And there's his phone number. You can reach out to him. He'd be happy to take your call.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Todd, you were busy nodding there. Was there something else you were thinking?
No, I'm just agreeing with the conversation as it's going on. You can hear it when Gene starts to describe this, and he starts citing the different paperwork and rules and the 12-page document that's simply the clarification on the last 40-page document and so forth. These are already extraordinary times. They're not necessarily the easiest times to be moving our business through. We can do it very successfully. We just need to make sure we are bringing a team of trusted advisors, people like Gene, along for the ride. So, Gene is, if you will, your tax GPS. He's going to keep you on track. He's going to keep you focused. And you want to have somebody advising you so that the right forms go in and you understand the impact of what's going to come back at you depending on what you put in.
Thank you.
Yeah, no question. And, to that end, we touched on a couple of really key topics in the last 20 minutes, but the two things are, hey, look, financial planning means that you have a plan, right? That somebody knows who's going to be in the driver's seat if you can't be. And I'll just say this, as far as the PPP and EIDL loans and all that, the government is in the driver's seat. So you definitely want to have a navigator. So my strong recommendation is, if you haven't done so today, you take stock of your business and you really take a look and say, hey, if I can't do this, who can? Because there are obligations. And let me tell you, if you don't have a plan, your government has one for you.
And you're not going to like it.
Because it'll be right in your pocketbook.
Right. Well, and it may not be in your pocketbook at that point, but if you had intended that there were people that were going to get taken care of from something you have created or you've been running, let me just tell you, it doesn't happen when you have to get lawyers involved. It takes lots and lots of extra time. So now is the time. I wish we had Chris Smith on. He's an attorney friend of ours. I highly recommend him for anybody who needs that kind of support. In any case, in closing, I just want to thank everyone for being with us today. Please go to the C-Level website and like and follow us on Facebook for updates. We'll see.
And share this information.
Share it. Yeah, do a watch party with people and have some fun with it. In any case, we'll be back next Friday. We'll look forward to seeing you then. I wish you all a really fun weekend. Enjoy the beautiful sunshine if you're in a place that has it. And for Todd, and for Gene, and myself, have a great day. Happy Friday.